spending a quiet night alone in our old two-story house on the outskirts of town would be a welcome break. It was my little sister's birthday, and the family had plans to celebrate with dinner at a nearby restaurant. Unfortunately, a sudden bout of illness led me to opt for rest at home instead. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows through the windows, I wrapped myself in a blanket and settled onto the couch. The quietness of the house was both comforting and eerie, with only the subtle creaks and groans of the old structure to keep me company. In the distance, I could hear the laughter of families enjoying their meals and the muffled hum of conversation from the nearby restaurant. Despite the solitude, a pang of loneliness settled in. However, I convinced myself that a quiet night alone would do wonders for my recovery. As I lay there, trying to ignore the unease creeping in, I heard it, a soft shuffling, like deliberate footsteps echoing through the house. At first, I dismissed it as the house settling, but the sound persisted, becoming more purposeful. Curiosity and fear battled within me as I cautiously got up and followed the noise. It led me to the second floor, where the tension in the air became palpable. Hushed whispers reached my ears, urging me to retreat into my room and close the door silently behind me. From the safety of my room, I noticed an old closet, slightly ajar, with a small hole in the wall, a detail I'd never paid much attention to before. Something compelled me to investigate further. As I opened the closet door, the sinking feeling in my stomach intensified. Peering through the hole, I saw 3 shadowy figures moving through the house, their faces hidden by masks. They were systematically ransacking rooms, flipping furniture, and searching through drawers with unsettling precision. The realization hit me. They were burglars, and I was alone with them. My options raced through my mind. Should I call the police? My phone was downstairs, and the risk of being heard was too great. I had to stay hidden, remain as quiet as possible. As I continued to watch through the hole, dread intensified with each passing moment. One of the intruders lingered in my room, inspecting personal belongings. I held my breath, heart pounding so loudly I was sure they could hear it. The men spoke in hushed tones, their words barely audible. They seemed agitated, as if time was running out. Suddenly, they stopped and turned toward the door. A chill ran down my spine as they approached the closet. I pressed myself further into the darkness, praying they wouldn't discover my hiding place. The door creaked open slowly, revealing the terrified expression on my face. For a moment, time stood still. Their eyes locked onto mine, and the room filled with an oppressive silence. I could feel the weight of their stares, and the realization hit. They knew I was there. In that split second, pure terror took over. I bolted from the closet, racing down the hall and down the stairs. The intruders followed, their footsteps thundering behind me. With adrenaline coursing through my veins, I reached the front door, flung it open, and sprinted into the cool night. I didn't stop running until I reached a neighbor's house, gasping for breath as I pounded on the door. The police were called, and as they investigated, they discovered that the burglars had been watching our house, waiting for the perfect opportunity. The violation of my sanctuary left scars that ran deeper than any physical wound. The safety and comfort I once felt within those familiar walls were forever shattered. Even as the perpetrators were apprehended, the memory of those shadowy figures still haunts my dreams. A a chilling reminder that danger can lurk in the most unexpected places. So, if you ever find yourself home alone, surrounded by silence, remember that sometimes it's the quietest moments that hold the darkest secrets. My name is Vida. I'm an office worker who recently had to relocate to another province for my job. The bustling city I now call home was vastly different from my previous life. The people had different habits, and the way of life here was something I needed to get used to. Little did I know that my decision to rent a seemingly innocent house would lead me down a path of terror. The house I moved into was an old two-story structure with an eerie charm. Its worn-out exterior hid the secrets within, and the owner, a seemingly friendly old man, mentioned casually that there had been a murder in the house. I brushed off the chilling information, confident that ghosts were nothing more than tales to scare children. Besides, the rent was incredibly cheap, and I was in no position to be picky. The first few days were uneventful. I settled into my new routine, exploring the city by day and returning to my quiet haven at night. It wasn't until the weekend, when I found myself home alone, that things took a turn for the unsettling. As I lounged on the living room couch, the silence of the house began to feel oppressive. The creaks and groans of an old house are common, but these seemed to carry an otherworldly weight. I dismissed it as my imagination playing tricks on me, blaming the unfamiliarity of the surroundings. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the dimly lit room, I heard a whisper. At first, I thought it was the wind, but then I realized the windows were tightly shut. The voice was faint, barely audible, but it seemed to come from the depths of the house. I strained my ears, trying to make out the words, but they eluded me. Nights became increasingly uneasy. The air inside the house felt thick, as if charged with an unseen energy. Odd occurrences became a regular part of my daily life. Objects would move on their own. Doors would creak open despite being securely latched, and the temperature would fluctuate inexplicably. One night, as I lay in bed, struggling to find sleep, I heard footsteps echoing through the hallway. My heart raced as I realized I was alone in the house. I mustered the courage to investigate, clutching a small flashlight in my trembling hand. The narrow corridor stretched before me, bathed in an eerie glow from the moonlight filtering through the windows. As I moved cautiously down the hall, the whispers returned, this time more distinct. It was a woman's voice, speaking words that sent shivers down my spine. The voice seemed to narrate a tragic tale of betrayal, despair, and a violent end. I couldn't discern the words clearly, but the anguish in the voice was palpable. Suddenly, the temperature plummeted, and the air grew thick with an oppressive presence. I felt an unseen force pushing against me, making it difficult to breathe. Panic set in as I struggled to comprehend the malevolent energy that seemed to envelop the house. In a desperate attempt to escape the suffocating atmosphere, I rushed towards the front door. Just as my hand touched the doorknob, I felt an icy breath on the back of my neck. A spectral figure materialized before me. A woman, her eyes filled with sorrow and anguish. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. Terrified, I flung the door open and ran into the cool night air. The oppressive energy that had gripped the house seemed to dissipate, leaving me breathless on the doorstep. I never returned to that accursed place, haunted by the memory of the ghostly encounter. To this day, I shudder at the thought of that old house and the tormented spirit that dwelled within. The line between the living and the dead had blurred, leaving me forever changed by the chilling horrors I had experienced on those lonely nights. My name is Sophia, and I work as a freelance writer in a quaint little town nestled between mist-covered mountains. Life here is peaceful, with its friendly neighbors, charming old houses, and streets that seem to wind through time itself. People are close-knit, and the routine is predictable, which is just the way I like it. One winter evening, my husband was away on a business trip, leaving me alone in our cozy house. The air was crisp, and the soft glow of street lamps cast long shadows on the snowy streets. As darkness descended, I immersed myself in my work, the rhythmic clacking of the keyboard echoing through the empty rooms. Little did I know that this night would shatter the serenity I had grown so accustomed to. The atmosphere inside the house gradually grew tense, almost as if an invisible presence lurked in the shadows. I dismissed it as a mere trick of my imagination, trying to immerse myself back into the plot. But then, a soft knock echoed through the silence, interrupting my focus. I frowned, wondering if I had imagined the sound. Another knock followed slightly louder this time. I cautiously set my book aside and approached the front door. Peering through the peephole, I saw a woman standing on my porch. She seemed distressed, her disheveled appearance triggering a wave of concern. "Please, open the door. I need help," she pleaded, her voice trembling with fear. I hesitated. My instincts warned me to be cautious. This place was a safe town, but that night, an unsettling feeling settled in the pit of my stomach. "What's wrong?" I asked, keeping a safe distance from the door. She claimed she was being attacked and begged me to let her in. Something about her plea felt off, sending shivers down my spine. My mind raced as I grappled with the decision to trust a stranger in the dead of night. As I stood behind the door, contemplating my next move, her demeanor shifted. The desperation in her eyes turned into a sinister glare. Without warning, she screamed, pounding on the door with an intensity that made the entire house shake. "Coward! Open the door!" she spat, her voice now laced with venom. My heart raced, and a chill ran down my spine. I watched in horror as she reached behind her back, revealing a gleaming knife. The realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't a plea for help. It was a trap. The woman continued to curse and threaten, her erratic behavior sending fear coursing through my veins. I remained frozen, paralyzed by the chilling sight outside my door. It was a surreal moment where time seemed to stretch, and the shadows in the corners of my home seemed to come alive. After what felt like an eternity, she finally retreated into the darkness. The echoes of her footsteps faded, leaving behind an eerie silence. I stayed hidden, afraid to make a move, until the first light of dawn touched the sky. Couldn't shake the feeling that the woman at my door was a mere pawn in a larger, more sinister game. As the morning sun bathed my home in its gentle glow, I couldn't help but wonder how many others in this seemingly idyllic town had fallen victim to the shadows that lurked beneath the surface.